Mr. Firuz, how are you? Fine, and how are you? Thank you. I have missed you, so we haven't seen each other for such a long time. Yes, that's true. I hope that we will come together very soon. And this pandemic has transformed our lives totally, so we cannot even talk to our friends. This is so somehow it has been my turn, and I have been invited for the vaccination. So in 28 days, I will have my second jab. And so it protects us by 66%. So I don't think that we have to wait for the Ukrainian president, and the Ukrainian president should not wait. Okay, so I will start now. So I start now. Distinguished mayor and chair people and the members of the press and the guests, I would like to thank you very much for accepting our invitation, and together with our tourism doyens, we cannot be together face to face, but this is a virtual meeting. And I would like to thank you for not leaving us alone at the summit of chair people. And I would like to thank also Mr. Tunç Soyer very much for his support, and I would like to say welcome to him. And I thank you very much. Just as you said, so it is a great pleasure for us to be together with the doyens of this sector and to host such an event, international event. This is very exciting because of the pandemic. Tourism has been one of the sectors which has been hit the worst. However, we also entertain many hopes for the future with regard to tourism. And therefore, I would like to extend my respect to all the participants for sharing our hope and for moving on together with them. And I would like to thank all of our participants for being with us today. Thank you. Distinguished guests. And of course, because of the COVID, many events and the trade fairs all over the world have been canceled. However, the promotion and the marketing studies are continuing without any interruption. And therefore, with the support of the Metropolitan Municipality, the 14th Travel Turkey Trade Fair is being held. And I would like to thank our mayor very much, who has never left us alone. And I would like to thank also Mr. Norbert Fiebig very much, who has always supported us. And also a little bit later, Ukrainian, from Ukraine, the president of the Ukrainian Tourism Development Agency will be with us. And I would like to thank her also very much. And also, one of the leading organizations, TÜRSAP, the president of TÜRSAP, I would like to thank you also very much for supporting us. And of course, tourism is a very strategic sector for the global economy and for our country. We all know this. So, Ms. Alexis, welcome. Marianne Oleski, welcome. After the pandemic popped up at the end of 2019, so tourism got into a big crisis. In 2020, uh, all, all these travels came to a halt. And this was a very difficult process for us. And I hope that the Ukrainian guests with us. And Ukraine started the first travels to our country, and it has been the country where we had the least drop. And because of the strategic cooperation between our two countries, we have got very strong relations. And now I would like to give the first floor to Ms. Oleskiv, although she seems to be out of breath and tired. Ms. Oleskiv, last year we have faced the pandemic. And how did this pandemic hit the Ukrainian tourism? And can you tell us the general evaluation of the Ukrainian tourism in 2020. How was the Ukrainian tourism in 2020? And how was the tourism of Ukraine hit by this COVID? Have you heard us?
Yes, hello everyone. Sorry for some trouble. Yes, I'm here. When we talk about hit of Ukrainian tourism, I would like to first of all mention that Ukraine, unfortunately, in general, has lack of statistic data, and we don't have the general statistic about overnight stays from the hotels, where we can measure the whole amount of tourists stayed in the hotels decrease. But we have measures, we measure arrivals to Ukraine, even though we cannot say how many tourists are exactly all those visitors. So they are just visitors to Ukraine. And we have decreased like 4 times of the visitors to Ukraine this year. So basically, I wanted to share the presentation, but as I understand that there is no technical possibility. When we talk about, for example, Turkish citizens, we had a great growth from 2015 to 2017. And then starting from 172,000 tourists in 2015, with the 2017, 2018, and 2019, we had more than 300,000 visitors. And in 2020, it was 2 times decrease. So we had 150,000 visitors from Turkey to Ukraine. Even though, as I told before, in general, we have the 4-time decreased of all arrivals to Ukraine. So that means that actually our borders were still not closed. We could travel sometimes with the test of coronavirus, sometimes without, depending on which zone each of our countries were to like in comparison to each other. That is a good sign, and we see for this year we have a big plan for actually working with Turkey as one of main markets for Ukraine, to do some promotion and to offer new tourist products for Turkish citizens and attract them as tourists to Ukraine. When we talk about departure of Ukrainian citizens to Turkey, we also had, I think, the biggest number in 2019, which was 1,470,000 Ukrainians traveling to Turkey. And in 2020, we had 965,000 visitors. So there was also decrease, but still Ukrainians were able to travel to Turkey. And I think there is one tourism product we need to develop between our countries is city breaks and these cultural visits, because at the moment Ukrainians mostly travel only to the seaside, and they love, Ukrainians really love Turkish resorts. and it's for family travel, but also still not much known the cultural product and the product of city breaks and visiting big cities like Istanbul, Izmir, and other Turkish cities. And at the same time, 2020, Turkey as an outgoing tourism was number 4 market. Ukraine, the number 1 was Poland, then Hungary, Russia, and number 4, Turkey, and the 5th is Egypt. When we talk about entry of foreigners to Ukraine, then we have the highest numbers of bordering countries, which is Moldova number 1, Belarus number 2, and Russia number 3. Also, as we know, the citizens of Moldova, they are sometimes like trespassing Ukraine on their way to Russia. And we don't consider much of these visitors as tourists. But this year we are planning to have a lot of questionnaires at the borders to understand which percentage of actually visitors are tourists and are visiting Ukraine with the tourism matters. Because some of Moldovan tourists visit, of course, Odessa region. Belarus and Russia, the same, more or less the same situation. And then number 4 is Poland, also bordering country. Also, a lot of citizens visit with the business matter, this cross-border cooperation. But we have, this is one of important tourism markets for Ukraine. Number 5 is Hungary. Number 6 is Romania. And then number 7 is Turkey. Then Israel, Germany, and Slovakia. So these are top 10 visitor countries to Ukraine. And we hope that next year we are working on having more exact statistics, and then we can talk about actually tourists. So considering these markets and having some data from the hotels also, this is not official data, but unofficial, they are providing us. Here we see among these markets, we see, of course, Poland as an important one, and Turkey, Israel, and Germany. Because we understand that out of these countries, tourists are visiting Ukraine very actively. Also, last year, it's in the matter of income, we have decreased from international travel also around 80%. We're still waiting for the data from our national bank. But when we look at the numbers for 9 months, it's around 80% decrease of income from international travel. Although Ukrainian, yes.
So my questions will be in 2 tours, and for each tour, only 7 minutes have been given. If you allow me, we will stop here. So I will come back to you again with another questions. Thank you very much for all this information. Distinguished chair people and guests. And Germany has been always a very important country for us. And during this turbulent time in 2020, more than 1 million German tourists came to Turkey. And we think that this is very important. And with regard to this, Mr. Fiebig, with regard to the German tourism sector, can you give us information about the tourism sector in Germany last year? And the German tourists, which countries are preferred by the German tourists? So you have got 7 minutes.
Okay, I will try to stick to that. First of all, thank you very much for the invitation. It's a great pleasure being part of such important international convention you are having here. And I would like to send the regards of all of the German tourism industry to our Turkish partners, and thank you very much again having me. The situation in Germany in the entire industry is quite challenging. we have a Corona did cause a big damage to all of the players in the market, and the situation of the players in the market is quite stressful, and if we wouldn't have the enormous, so to say, governmental subsidies, most of the players wouldn't be able to survive that situation. And that has to do because we last year lost 80% of the turnover. And for example, and that got even worse in January. The travel agency is collected just 10% of the bookings they received in prior years. So that is the situation overall in the market. The clients are still willing to spend holidays, and that was the same last year. But because of the big uncertainties and because of all the travel warnings, travel bans, quarantine regulations, they decided more and more to spend their holiday, if they did so, in Germany, in their home country. But even in Germany, we had a drop of some 33%. And Germany, as a holiday destination for international travelers, dropped down by some 66%. So that is the German side. Looking to the foreign destinations around mainly around the Mediterranean Sea, the best in the best position, and that did have to do with the pandemic situation, at least in the summer season. The best did Greek, but even Greek lost more than half of the turnover they used to have. And Spain, they lost an enormous amount, and that is close to 70%. And that is the same with Egypt. Tunisia is even worse. And on the long haul side, if you're asking the question where the clients did go in 2020, on the long haul business is the US, and that has to do with travel regulations from their side as well, not just from our side, of more than 80%, just Thailand as in the other direction, and that has to do because they have a very strong winter season, and the winter season was more or less untouched. But even they have more than 40% decrease in their turnover. So overall, look, is quite sad, and the situation is very, very challenging. The economic situation is for most of the players is damaging at the moment. And again, if we wouldn't have the governmental subsidies, it would look even worse. That is the situation. The good thing is, and with that I may did fulfill the 7 minutes limit. The good thing is that the clients are still, and more than before, I would say, they are willing to spend their holidays even abroad, and the longer they are not able to do, the more they have the wish to spend finally their holidays on the Mediterranean Sea somewhere, and that is a good thing for the business. Once we are coming to that, I believe, to vaccination and testing procedures. Once we have that somehow stable, I'm pretty positive that the situation will change very soon. Thank you very much for the first 7 minutes.
İlk 7 dakika için. Sağ olun. I would like to thank you, Mr. Fibik. Thank you for your assessments in this round. And now the second speaker talked about restrictions, government subsidies, uncertainties, and the Mediterranean enthusiasm for Mediterranean. And since he talked about the Mediterranean, so before completing this round, I would like to give the floor to Mr. Baldıkaya in order to assess this round. But first of all, I want to give the floor to Mr. Mayor, Mr. Tunç Soyer. So Izmir is the third largest city in our country, and it has unprecedented richness. So how does pandemic impact Izmir? And what were the key points of 2020? Thank you very much. And of course, really tourism industry has been hit hardest by the pandemic. And as Mr. Fibik said, there has been some declines up to 70% in some countries. And yes, in 2020, due to the pandemic, in the international tourism industry, there has been a decline between 60 to 80%. More than 100 million tourism businesses are under great risk. And of course, worldwide, there have been attempts to mitigate this damage and to revive the industry, and many discussions are being made. And together with the vaccination, a boom is expected for 2021. A keen competition is expected for 2021. And Izmir has history, climate, UNESCO World Legacy, gastronomy, and it has places in UNESCO list. And Izmir is a very special city, and we are trying to make it a center of attraction for the world, and opportunities will arise after the pandemic, and we want to capitalize on these opportunities, and we are spending our best efforts together with stakeholders in order to use these opportunities. And in 2020, the industry has undergone many difficulties, but we have worked with our stakeholders, and first of all, we have created Tourism Hygiene Board, and we started Orange Circle practice. So we were the first city to set local hygiene regulations, and we want Izmir to make a safe, hygienic city, and we had carried out a communication campaign for this purpose. And despite all the negative impact of the pandemic, Izmir had a tourism season in 2020 which was over the expectations, which was more than expected. And we want a permanent growth in tourism industry, and we are following the trends in the world, not only as the follower of trends, but we want to be a city which sets trends. And this is our aim, this vision for the future. And we want to a life in harmony with nature, and we want sustainable tourism. This is our perspective, and we believe that this is going to bring a momentum to tourism in Izmir. And this perspective has been developed before the pandemic, and with the pandemic, this perspective is now adopted in the whole world, and this shows us that yes, we are on the right path. And with all our studies and efforts, we are hoping that tourism will really expand and develop after the pandemic, and Izmir is going to use this change as an opportunity and will become an attractive and popular and preferred destination. And in order to achieve this, we need global and local cooperations, and we work with based on consensus, and this is very important. Collaboration and cooperation are important for us. And like other speakers say, I am sharing this hope, and I believe that we are going to overcome this pandemic, and we will start with a brand new and beautiful world, and this world will particularly be beautiful for the tourism industry. Thank you.
Çok teşekkür ederim.
Thank you very much for your contribution. And now, there is the Turkish Travel Agencies Association, which represents 12,000 travel agencies. Mr. Baldıkaya, so we have talked about opportunities and hopes. And can you evaluate 2020 in terms of the Turkish tourism? What sort of a year was this for the Turkish tourism? First of all, I would like to greet Mr. Sawyer with respect, and Marianne Oleskev, and Mr. Norbert Fiebig. I would like to greet you also with respect, and I would like to thank you for your participation in this event. And Mr. Nihat, I would like to extend my respect to you. The pandemic started at the end of 2019, and as you know, it has hit not only the human health, but it has hit also economy and the social life. And it had a very adverse effect on the whole world, and it has transformed our lifestyle. And so it made us to have a totally new world system. And so the borders were drawn again. And although this process is being called the new normal, we can say that nothing is normal right now. And in terms of the economy, this is the biggest crisis of this century. And also in terms of the tourism sector, so we have never seen such a long-lasting and deep crisis. And so all my colleagues, I think that all my colleagues agree with me. And of course, tourism has been the sector which has been hit worst. And also, according to the evaluations of the United States Tourism Organization, and because of the loss in 2020, the tourism has seen the crisis sector, the crisis in its history. And according to the data in 2020, so the number of the international travels has decreased by 74% in comparison to the previous year. So 1 million travels have been lost. And so in the world, the loss was 74%. And also the number of the international tourists has dropped by 72% in Turkey, and 12.4 million tourists only came. And so when we add our citizens living abroad, and then 16 million visitors came to us. And in terms of our income, so there has been a drop by 60%, $12.1 billion has been generated. And of course, in 2020, in comparison to the previous year, it has increased. The per capita income has increased 762 by 62, and also the holiday time of the incoming tourists has been extended. And in this new time, so the travel time, the holiday time has been extended, and so the travelers wanted to go to closer places. And also tourism employment had a loss of 100,000 people, and so we think that by the end of March, this will end. So, Katya. The support of the government will end by the end of March. In 2020, there was a short working subsidy, and this will end by the end of March. And I hope this will be further extended. And for example, the Congress tourism and cruise tourism and sports tourism so has been hit by the COVID. And with regard to the pilgrimage, there has been also a huge decrease, and there has been a loss of market, and therefore this subsidy for the people who have lost their jobs should be extended further. And in November 2019, and 1,141,000 people have been employed. And in November, it has decreased to 1,040,000. And that means that despite such a very deep crisis, there has not been a very deep crisis, because this is related to the subsidies received from the government. And this is what I can say about 2020. Thank you very much for your evaluation. And for using your time efficiently. And of course, in your speech, you have talked about some different types of tourism. So the second tour will be started with Mr. Fiebig. And in Germany, the vaccination is continuing. So we are following this up. And what will be the effect of the vaccination on international travels? And what are your expectations with regard to 2021? As a moderator, so caravan tourism, for example, I think for 2021, what would be the effect, the situation of caravan tourism? And will there be the caravan tourism? And also with regard to Izmir, culture and faith and gastronomy, tourism is important. And what do you recommend to us to promote Izmir with this tourism diversity? The floor is yours, Mr. Fiebig.
Okay, thank you very much indeed. I would like to start with some comments on the vaccination process we are having in Germany. I believe you are in Turkey ahead of us. Unfortunately, we have actually just 4% of the population delivered with a vaccination, and 4% with the first vaccination, and just 2.5% with the second. So we are very much behind. That has to do, especially in comparison with other countries who are doing better there, the UK, Israel, and even the US, and I believe your country as well, Turkey as well. That has to do with the procurement process of the vaccination that is in the hand of the European Commission, and that didn't work as good as we all did expect it. But anyway, the process started, and we all hope that is going forward, because vaccination is one of the important issues when it comes to how we are getting back to normal, how we are getting back to normal travel, and that is one of the key issues. But for Germany, the estimation is that we did everybody who is interested in the vaccination are able to offer a vaccination by beginning of autumn. So that is, we are talking about, I believe, September, maybe October. That means to us, and that is what we are pushing for and asking for on the governmental side as well, beside the vaccination, and we need much more speed on that, we need a testing procedure, an intelligent testing procedure in order to enable people who didn't receive the vaccination so far are able to move, to travel once they can make clear by testing that they are not infected. That is a big issue at the moment. Rapid testing is available, and that is for at least in the next 6 to 8 months, I believe, a very important issue in order to get our business up and running, to sides the vaccination, and as long as we didn't have a full coverage by the vaccination, testing is very, very important, and that guided by safety and hygiene procedures. And your country, the hotels in Turkey, they did a fantastic job. So as far as I can judge in order to make a holiday safe. And on that basis, I believe it's going to start again. We will see, that is my estimation, we will see even in 2021, this year, a tendency to German holiday or close neighborhoods, Austria, Switzerland, maybe Croatia, And but we will see, because with that destinations you don't need to step into an aircraft, and that is for some people an additional issue where they may hesitate to do so. But we will see it's going up and running again, and coming to Turkey as a destination. We used to have, and it's still in place, but the bilateral agreement we had between Germany and Turkey, that was the basis why we did the business in last summer. That is suspended because of, put it in kind words, different views of the reporting system and figures. But that is just suspended. We need to come back to that, and that could be a very stable basis to get the business from Germany to Turkey up and running again. And another point is why I believe Turkey has a good chance. They, as I mentioned, they did a very good job on the hygiene and security within the hotels and the transfer buses and what have you. And Turkey is quite well known to the Germans, and once they are hesitating a little bit where to go, they may decide for the destination they are familiar with, and that is maybe one issue additional which counts for Turkey. And talking about Izmir, to your question, I believe we will have and we had that before Corona as well. We have a tendency, I'm not saying that the people are not crazy about sun and beach anymore, but there is a different view on that, and I expect that to continue that trend. They're more interested in adding to their sun and beach business active business, hiking, whatever, looking around, being more interested in the cultural things to offer, and cuisine is also a topic. So they will in the future even more be interested maybe in smaller units once we are talking about hotels. And they are interested more in getting mixed up with the surrounding, with the culture and the cultural things and what to see. And I believe that is an issue where Izmir region has a lot to offer. And once the demand of the clients is changing in that direction, I believe that could be a good basis to start after the Corona and maybe to receive a little more than the others.
So we have to continue with Balkaya because Mr. Tunçsoyer has to leave at 3:30. So I'm changing the flow a bit. Yes, Mr. Soyer. Thank you very much for your understanding. And together with the pandemic, the perceptions in tourism are changing. And in Izmir, we are carrying out many studies. And the Aegean region, and specifically Izmir, we know that it's nature, outdoor places, and rural areas. So therefore, Izmir and the Aegean region has great potential. And we want to reveal this potential of Izmir. And we want Izmir to be a leading destination worldwide. And we have this vision for the city, and we are acting together with our stakeholders. And we have developed Izmir Tourism Strategy and Action Plan. And following the pandemic, the travel trends in the world will change. And just like Mr. Fiebig said, it will be more focused on health, and it will be more on a small scale, and all the industry. So this is the common view of all the professionals of the industry, and with the coordination of İzmir Foundation, and with partnership of İzmir Metropolitan Municipality and İzmir Development Agency, the first İzmir Digital Tourism Encyclopedia has been created, and more than 40 experts have worked, and digital destination inventory of İzmir has been developed. History and culture, gastronomy, intangible cultural heritage, events and festivals, faith, industrial heritage, and coast and nature, cinema, accommodation. So there are 11 different chapters, and there is information on more than 2,000 points. And so we have prepared digital destination inventory of İzmir, and this will help us to promote İzmir to the world. And it is going to operate with İzmir mobile application. And with the pandemic, the understanding in the industry is changing, and this is a great step that we have taken together with our stakeholders. And Visit İzmir is a mobile application. In a traveler anywhere in the world will be able to learn how to reach any point in İzmir, and this traveler can access all the information about all the destinations in İzmir. So this indicates that we have understood the changing trends in tourism with the pandemic, and we want to bring different experiences to the visitors. And İzmir has all different assets, including culture and nature. And we have a study which is called İzmiras, and this connects all the destinations, all the routes. And we are creating green corridors and digital tourism applications. And this will help tourists to spend more time in the city, and the total the length of total stay in İzmir will be increased. And there is a 500 bicycle route between Pergamon and Ephesus, and it is the first city included in Eurovelo. With the Eurovelo route, bike tourists will come to İzmir, and they will access information about accommodation points, and they will visit historical and cultural places, and this will create an additional value for many other industries. And last month, we have announced our İzmir agricultural strategy, and agrotourism is also something that we want to create. And in the whole world, agrotourism brings additional income to farmers. And in addition, after the pandemic, the tourism perception will change, and this is also an important part of that perception. And we had already adopted this in Seferihisar, and farmers there had gained this additional income, and we had hosted more foreign visitors there. And our aim is to have agrotourism in İzmir, so that villages in İzmir can have this additional income, not only in specific seasons, but throughout the year. And we want to diversify the tourism income revenues of İzmir. And Pergamon is in the World Heritage List of UNESCO, and there's Kozak Plateau there, which is very beautiful, and we want it to be an agricultural tourism destination. And you know that in this period, the fairs are not organized, and it is going to be a place to be for tourism, and we are holding this digital tourism, and we are hoping that the 15th Travel Turkey in December 2020, all tourism professionals in İzmir will be hosted in İzmir. This is our aim. So we are trying to work so that we can mitigate the negative impact of pandemic on the tourism industry in İzmir, and we can take a step forward. So İzmir has history, culture, and natural heritage, and we want to promote this to the world, and we want this heritage to be in harmony with the nature, and we want to make use of this, capitalize on these assets, and we continue to work very hard, and we know very well that so it's when we look at tourists, we want İzmir to be a safe, clean, and hygienic city, not only for the tourists coming from Ukraine, not only tourists coming from Germany, but we want this to be true for all the tourists coming from all other parts of the world. So we are working very hard so that we can give this confidence to all people. And I would like to thank you individually for your participation. and for being together with you. And thank you for sharing your valuable ideas with us. Thank you very much. So Nihat Bey, thank you very much. Thank you very much. I know that you have to leave, but since we are a bit late, I had to change the flow. And now I would like to give the floor to Mr. Balkaya. And before Tunç Bey leaves, could you please make the last speech before he leaves?
In 2021, the performance of the tourism will be determined by the course of the pandemic. And of course, the vaccination has started in many countries, but despite that, as Mr. Fiebig has said, to have an immunity, we need some time. And the vaccination has to be accelerated. And of course, the distribution of the vaccines has to be very fair in the whole world. And from the second part of the year, we will have some improvement in our sector, I guess. And as Mr. Fiebig said, of course, the first travels will be to the border countries. However, the Ukrainians and the Germans have missed Turkey very much, and I think that they will prefer Turkey as soon as possible. And as of February 2021, 210 million people have been vaccinated. However, it is the United Kingdom which has been vaccinated the most. 18.3 million people have been vaccinated in the United Kingdom, and it is more than many countries. And in Germany, it is 5.2 million. Of course, the effect of the vaccination on tourism is being shown by the data of the United Kingdom, and that it has made an evaluation that in the United Kingdom, through the vaccination, there has been a huge increase in the holiday reservations by the people, over 50 people, and 50% of all these people are the people over the age of 50. And so the vaccination has to be accelerated in order to have an improvement in tourism. And as a result, in 2021, and so the performance of the tourism will be the development of tourism depends on vaccination and the immunity, and also the fair distribution of the vaccines all over the world. And in case all this has been done, then from the second part of this year, there will be an improvement in our sector. And in 2021, in terms of the world economy, of course, the border policies of the countries will have an effect, and of course, when the number of the cases in our country is put under control, then our relations with the other countries will be improved, and also. So when the vaccination is accelerated in Europe and in Russia, then in 2021 we will have 60% more tourist income inflow than in 2020. And also when we add our Turkish people who are living abroad, when they arrive, then we will have 21 million tourists. And the income will be, the total tourism income will be about $20 billion. This is our prediction. And with regard to the advantages of Izmir and Turkey, so I will explain all this to you a little bit later. Distinguished chairperson, so that we don't have any repetition in the travel Turkey affairs, so we have to stop here this meeting, and I would like to thank the Metropolitan Mayor of Izmir and our foreign guests, and I would like to thank the TÜRSAP very much for your contribution, and for our countries and for the whole world, we wish a healthier future. Thank you, and hope to see you in other events. Thank you. Thank you very much.
Thank you, bye-bye.